Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today's video I'm talking about 11 what I'm going to call sort of non-key issue CGC 9.8 comic books to invest in. And non-key issues, it's interesting because for really no other reason these books, except that they're really cool and they have really cool art, is really the only reason why they're sort of wanted among collectors and things like that. So they're non-key issues, but still very cool, very wanted by collectors with sort of thriving markets and competitive prices and everything for these CGC 9.8 books specifically too. Many of these books on the list though are great budget books. Like if you're on a budget and instead of spending closer to 400, you want to spend closer to 100. Most of these books sort of are in that sort of range price-wise. Another great thing is a lot of these books are so underfollowed, there's only like 20, 30, 40 of them in the CGC 9.8s, yet they're still affordable. So you get a really good like collector item out of a lot of these books, I think. Like a 1 in 30, a 1 of 40 type of collector item. And another great thing is I only have like 1 or 2 of these books on the list. So this is almost like my like underfollowed want list of like weird sort of type of comics. So if that's kind of your thing, then this will probably be the list for you. Now really quick, when I think of like non-key issues that are great like investment grade books, first thing that comes to mind almost is Batman 423. So I actually don't have it on the list here of the 11 books, but Batman 423 is one of my favorite issues, a great investment grade book. There's less than 100 of them out there with a good investment grade CGC 9.8 ratio. It's like 14-ish%. But I just did it on my McFarlane video, so I'm going to leave it off this list. But for non-key issue investment grade books, still want to mention it. Yeah, if you're willing to spend a little bit more, it's about $400, we'll call it, for a nice one. And the CGC 9.8 white pages is a good price. For Batman 423, I think that's a really great book to have. And less than 100 of them on the census as well. Just did it on my McFarlane video, so I'm not going to include it in this video though. Okay, so let's get right into the list here of 11 books. Yeah, just some really cool art, and a lot of these books are, if they kind of popped up in Canada at a really decent price, like I would be so tempted to buy pretty much all of these books. So yeah, the first book here, Marvel Tales 137. This is an Amazing Fantasy 15 reprint. And with Amazing Fantasy obviously being like out of everyone's price range, like I looked specifically, it was like for like CGC 1s and CGC like 1.5s, and like the covers are totally ripped up, they're like 10 grand. Like so with Amazing Fantasy 15 first appearance of Spider-Man being pretty much out of everyone's price range, I think this is a great book to have. It's an Amazing Fantasy 15 reprint, Jack Kirby cover. And yeah, in the CGC 9.8, there's 34 of them in the CGC 9.8, so not too many of them out there. 37% CGC 9.8 ratio, which is not too bad. Usually books that don't have a lot of them graded, like in this list, the 9.8 ratios are not very low because, there's not very many graded. They're like kind of cult followed books, so people that are sending books to CGC that are fans of these books probably have really nice ones and kept them for kind of quite a while. So not as relatively rare mostly on this list, but only 34 of these Marvel Tale 137 out there. And I just think in a collection of comic books, especially if you're into Marvel and stuff like that, it's really cool just having an Amazing Fantasy 15 reprint, or like this is an exact reprint. I think that's really cool, and it's kind of the first one too. It's, in a way, you can kind of think of it as like the first facsimile. So with 34 CGC 9.8s out there, I was looking on prices. So I saw 2 completed listings on eBay, really nice looking ones. One was like 90 something bucks and the other was like 122.50, I'm pretty sure it was. So I think that really under $100 that one that went, that's going to be pretty rock bottom on this issue. It is a pretty, pretty wanted. I wouldn't say it's extremely wanted. You know what though, this was a book that, I had saw, and I really, just for that reason of really wanting an Amazing Fantasy first appearance of Spider-Man, I wanted something in my collection for that, besides like a modern facsimile kind of thing. And I know Amazing Spider-Man 252 with the Amazing Fantasy 15 cover homage is another really good option, and I do have a couple of those. But I did end up grabbing this book. So there's a Canadian seller, really cheap shipping to Canada, and I thought it was a reasonable price. We'll do a whole unbox video, but I ended up paying, it was $145 plus like shipping, because it was in Canada, it was like 13 bucks Canadian or something, like really cheap shipping, which was odd, I thought. But yes, so I think that's going to be near the higher end. If I actually, this one was in an old case too. I just thought, instead of thinking, do I want to save $20, $30, I might as well just grab one now. But I sort of am on the lookout for another one in a new case, I think. If an auction pops up, I really want to, put in a competitive bid and hopefully get it for around that $122.50. This book in a new case, I think would be really great. Yeah, I just think this is a great buy. There's only 34 9.8s out there. There's a couple on eBay right now for a very similar price for what I paid. So yeah, 145. I think that seller might have had two. I think I saw another one that he had put up. So maybe you can go check that out. Okay, next book. Let's get through a little quicker here, hopefully. X-Men 24. Yeah, this is a really cool classic Rouge Gambit kissing cover. And it's an Andy Kubert cover, I believe, yeah. There's 25 CGC 9.8s out there. 59.5% is the CGC 9.8 ratio. I think this is really like the pick out of this whole run. I know there's like some really cool Jim Lee covers of the sort of those first 15 issues of X-Men, but I really like this one as sort of an underfollowed X-Men book from the X-Men series, not Uncanny XMen I'm talking about. So X-Men 24, classic Gambit, Rogue, not very many in the CGC 9.8. So what kind of made me think of this book really at this moment, there's one from a Canadian seller right now in the CGC 9.8, and like everything is great on the book, but like right on the spine there's like some little blemishes on the spine that are kind of annoying, and I mean I really almost pulled the trigger on this book because I think he has it competitively priced. I'm pretty sure it was 140 or 150 Canadian. So that's going to be closer to 100 American, which I think is a decent buy it now, like competitive price. If you wait in an auction, you probably get this one, maybe even under 100. But X-Men 24, even in the raw or something like that, great book to have, great collector item, I think, and because yeah, just such a classic Gambit Rogue kissing cover. So another one kind of off the radar here. Next book, Marvel Comics Presents number 79. So this is one that I've been sort of up on my searches lately, trying to grab a CGC 9.8 version of this book. I think out of Weapon X, I've mentioned like Weapon X number 72 is the origin of Wolverine, and I think it's a pretty great book to get. But I don't like the cover as much. So this is my pick for like the coolest Weapon X cover by Barry Windsor Smith, is the artist that does these covers. So 29 CGC 9.8s out there. Yeah, I've been up pretty on top of my searches and not seeing any of these pop up on eBay. 31.9% CGC 9.8 ratio. But with 29 of them out there, yeah, this will be one I'll just hopefully have to be patient on, and just, hopefully I get lucky and am up on top of my searches for this issue. Because yeah, another one that I want that's, again, sort of in the mold of this video, not a key issue, just underfollowed, but such a cool cover. And yeah, I think this one's not extremely wanted, but I think it's one of the more popular Weapon X covers from those like 15 issues of whatever it was of Marvel Comics Presents, the origin of Weapon X and Wolverine. So yeah, really cool one, my pick out of that range. Next one, a Batman book, Detective Comics 571. This is pretty much my favorite like detective cover from this era that's like sort of underfollowed. I like Detective 583 too, the first Scarface and Ventriloquist. That would be my other one. It's a little bit more expensive, that book. I would say that's a key issue with the first appearance. So this one though, a cool Scarecrow cover. Yeah, what was it? 27 CGC 9.8s out there. And I've seen auctions of this one pass by and kind of hit myself for really not bidding. And I think it sort of goes for in like the low 70s to even 60 bucks for this book. Maybe in an auction you get it for like 65 bucks. Yeah, really cool Scarecrow cover. Yeah, and this one comes to mind because of that. There was one CGC 9.8 auction, maybe about a year ago now, but for some reason it always sticks in my mind because I love Batman books, basically. And I passed it up. I didn't bid on it or anything, and it ended up going for sort of that $65–70 price. And I kind of wish I would have bought it at that time. But a really cool Scarecrow cover, and if you're a big Scarecrow fan, Batman fan, and even on a budget, yeah, hopefully you get this at least for sure under $100. There's only 27 9.8s out there though, so kind of got to be on top of the search results for that one. Next book's more obvious and more kind of a popular book. Punisher War Journal #6, a classic Jim Lee Wolverine cover. And this is one I've almost pulled the trigger on a couple times. I think it's just some of the auctions I've seen with the right shipping to Canada and everything for me, you know, maybe it was off-centered or this and that, but this is a book to want for sure, especially if you're a Wolverine fan and a Jim Lee fan, which I am both. 274 CGC 9.8s, 58.7% the CGC 9.8 ratio. So yeah, of all graded copies, 58.7% of them are CGC 9.8, so over half of them, which is quite a lot. Not the rarest book, so you know most people are probably big Jim Lee Wolverine fans sending this to CGC with their perfect copy. 274 9.8, so yeah, you could be patient on this one. And I think, you know, auctions, yeah, I think it's sort of in that $80 to $90 range in an auction. Would be a pretty good price, I think, for this book. And, you know, if you wanted it now, probably over 100, you know, 110. I wouldn't, you know, if this cover was really nostalgic to you and everything, like, I wouldn't blame you if you kind of paid 110 for this book. You know, what's 20 bucks when, like, especially if it's a really nicely centered one, things like that. Yeah, Punisher War Journal, classic Jim Lee Wolverine cover is certainly wantable. Next one is a book we talked about on a couple videos ago. Certainly worthy of being on this list, yes. XFactor SpiderMan #101, the John Byrne black costume cover. Yeah, for, you know, no real reason why this should be really wanted or anything, except that it's just the coolest cover. And John Byrne really, his fans really kind of follow his work, and you know, a lot of his classic covers, and there's another classic John Byrne cover in our list too that we'll get to. But yeah, this is really one to go after, and the prices sort of show that. Yeah, on the census it's 57 CGC 9.8, if I'm reading that right. Yeah, and 32.2% CGC 9.8 ratio, so not really particularly rare for like this age of book. But yeah, the auctions of this book, yeah, you see, you know, probably the lowest you're gonna get this book is like $275. And then sometimes you see auctions going over $300 for this book. Yeah, quite often for a really, really nice looking one in a new case. So yeah, really fits this video being a definite non-key that's really like investable. And yeah, that's why I definitely had it on my other book. Yeah, so Incredible Hulk. Next one, Incredible Hulk 345. And one I got in the raw, decent raw copy. I would say this is probably about a 9.2 or 9.4. 14 bucks Canadian it was at my local con I bought this one at. But in the CGC 9.8, this is definitely the second one to get out of the sort of McFarlane run with Incredible Hulk. Yeah, and the CGC prices kind of show that. Like it's yeah, a pretty expensive book. There's 52 CGC 9.8s out there, so not a lot out there is probably one of the main reasons. 26.8% being the CGC 9.8 ratio, so not as relatively rare as Hulk 340, but still a pretty rare book considering there's not a lot graded and there's only 52 in the CGC 9.8s. Yeah, and price for this book was like 250 I think is sort of a fair market. That's what people are paying. Maybe you get lucky, you get it closer to 200 in an auction. Yeah, this is my second. I like that Amazing Spider-Man 300 kind of homage of the Hulk. That's a great cover from this run too. But this is, yeah, probably my second favorite one, and it's the second sort of most expensive out of that run in the CGC 9.8. So collectors kind of want this one the most, besides Hulk 340. And yeah, just if you're sort of certainly a Hulk 340 aficionado, like for me, I may have really considered purchasing this book in the CGC 9.8 if like a great deal on shipping to Canada kind of popped up. If it sort of popped up from one of my more favorite sellers with good shipping. Yeah, because I have 4 Hulk 340s in the CGC 9.8, and yeah, that would really make a good ad with only one of 50, it would be a 1 in 52 collector item, that Hulk 345 in the CGC 9.8 white pages. Yeah, one I'd recommend. Next one, pretty off the radar as well, definitely a non-key. Uncanny XMen 239. So there's first Mr. Sinister, Uncanny XMen 221. Is a book that I have in the CGC 9.8, first appearance of Mr. Sinister, great book to have. But I've sort of lamented on videos, and I held off on buying that one for quite a long time because I didn't really like the cover. It wasn't that colorful, and it doesn't have Mr. Sinister on it. This book does. My favorite Mr. Sinister cover from the sort of Uncanny X-Men early appearances of him. Uncanny X-Men 239, 64 CGC 9.8, so this one 46.4% CGC 9.8 ratio. So yeah, definitely a non-key and just hardcore Mr. Sinister fans getting this one graded. But I've saw these popping up in auctions occasionally, and yeah, one I really almost considered bidding on, but yeah, I just kind of decided to pass. Shipping was a little bit expensive to Canada, I think it was, because it was from the United States. But yeah, seeing auctions in the sort of $60 to $70 range, anywhere in there. Maybe might get over $80 if it's a really nice looking one in a new case, CGC 9.8. So yeah, this is definitely a non-key that if you're a big Mr. Sinister fan, I kind of want this book. Yeah, I want this to pop up with good shipping to Canada, really nicely centered, and I'd be all over this one because huge Mr. Sinister fan, but don't really like the cover for 221. I did end up getting one. I got a nice newsstand one now, but I'm not going to get like multiple copies of that. Like, I'm definitely done because yeah, I don't really like the cover on that one. But Uncanny X-Men 239, yeah, definitely my favorite Mr. Sinister cover. So next book, I'm kind of I would say stretching the definition of a non-key issue with this one because there is a first appearance, but it's like really underfollowed, and there's, as you'll see, only 18 on the CGC census, but it's Batman 412. So this is the origin and first appearance of Mime, and who's Camilla Orton is her name. There's only 18 of these in the CGC 9.8. Really, there's one on eBay right now that's really nice in a new case, and it's $200, or buy it now, basically. No best offer, just a flat buy it now. Yeah, and I was messaging him because he's in Canada trying to make a bit of a deal, but decided to pass just based on he was pretty firm on $200 buy it now for this book. 18 CGC 9.8s out there, 54% CGC 9.8 ratio, not a lot graded, but yeah, kind of a definite underfollowed key issue. I guess this is a key issue since it's an origin and first appearance, but since it's so underfollowed, it pretty much is a non-key issue. But even in the raw, this one, yeah, Batman 412, origin and first Mime. I think, yeah, there's definitely some potential with Mime. I think like this character in a movie could be really good, have a lot of potential for sure, and it's so underfollowed. Yeah, 18 CGC 9.8s. Pretty cool cover too, yeah. So, as a big Batman fan, I pretty much have most of the Batman keys. Like, this is so wantable. Like, I'm waiting for an auction to pop up for this one. Yeah, as I said, this is kind of like my underfollowed want list of sort of rare CGC 9.8 books. This list is almost like that. Okay, what is it? 2 more books here. So, next one is one we've talked about in the past. Fantastic Four 243. Had this one on my, it was like closer to around $100 comic books to buy, CGC 9.8 books to buy. Classic John Byrne Galactus cover. Yeah, really cool. White John Byrne Galactus cover. 138 CGC 9.8s out there, 63% is a CGC 9.8 ratio. But yeah, for how cool this cover is, and I just think this is one that's got potential to continue doing well. It's a little bit popular for this list, I would say. 138 in the CGC 9.8, so be patient on this one. And yeah, I did have it on my closer to $100 books to invest in, and I think if you're really patient, you get this for like $125, $130 in an auction. But I wouldn't blame you if you paid $150 for it. Yeah, just a really great cover, and there's only 138 out there, CGC 9.8. Kind of a non-key issue, yeah, no first appearance or anything like that, but great John Byrne Galactus cover. Okay, last issue out of the list. Amazing Spider-Man 607, and I've recommended this periodically too. Book that I got too. Yeah, there's 424 CGC 9.8 on the blue label for this book. Pretty much the most popular on the list, I believe. Yeah, most popular on the list. 424. 9.8 ratio is 42%, so 42% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8s. And this is definitely my pick and sort of the collector pick as the classic J. Scott Campbell Black Cat sort of pin-up cover. And he did a couple other Black Cat pin-up covers and Mary Jane covers around this one, but this one's kind of fetching the most in the CGC 9.8. If you get super lucky, I've seen auctions in this for like $130, $140, but most of them sell for like $169.99. I would say like a lot of them I see sell for that $179.99 type of price. Yeah, I paid $170 for mine in a best offer kind of thing. But such a great book to have. Definitely kind of a non-key, not too special. Besides such a great cover, and yeah, J. Scott Campbell, he did quite a few covers I mentioned around this time, and this is just fetching the most, and it's the most wanted by collectors. So I think this is the one you grab out of this whole J. Scott Campbell run. And yeah, like there's been a lot of like Black Cat variants and J. Scott Campbell variants of Black Cat that have come out since that are really expensive in the modern, I think. Like sort of modern variants that are a little bit less printed, but I've seen some pretty insane prices on those, so I think you get this one around sort of $150, $160 is way better than going after one of those modern variants. But yeah, such a hot cover. Classic J. Scott Campbell cover. He's definitely got a cult of fans like McFarlane does pretty much. And yeah, no wonder with his awesome like lady covers and this being kind of a male-dominated hobby pretty much for the most part. Alright, so a full list of 11 there, and my ultimate recommendation at the beginning, Batman 423, but I just did it on that McFarlane video, so didn't really kind of want to go into everything. Yeah, definitely check out that video if you haven't already. But I'll have the full list of the 11 issues in the description. And yeah, you know what, this is really my underfollowed want list essentially. And yeah, I think some of these non-key issues can be really great books that give you a lot of pride of ownership, and they're cool and they're kind of eclectic picks. But yeah, I think some of these, especially the first one, the Marvel Tales 137, I think that's a good one. Like, I was really surprised of the completed listing prices when I looked on the auctions for that one. I think you grab that close for that one, 120-ish, 130. That's a great buy. And yeah, Amazing Fantasy 15 reprint. That's actually, some of these got a lot of potential. Yeah, for sort of being underfollowed books. I think some of these do have a lot of potential. Okay, so if you haven't already, I invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8, and yeah, hit the bell to get all our latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter too. I'll have all the links in the description below for all that stuff. But yeah, some really interesting ideas here. And the best thing about these books is that for no particular reason, they're just other than that, they're just super cool, is how they became really popular. So yeah, I think that'll continue on, and new generations of collectors will think they're really cool too. And I think these are really good books that you can grab for the most part if you're on a budget for really good prices, but they have probably more potential than buying a lot of some of the obvious keys that you could buy for some of these prices as well. And that's kind of a sweeping general statement, but for the most part, yeah, these are really good books with lots of potential. And yeah, that Marvel Tales 137 certainly, I think, is the kind of epitome of that, being a pretty old book with not too much out there on the census, but yeah, lots of potential for these books, I think. And if it matches your budget, this will hopefully is kind of the video for you to get some really good ideas. So yeah, thanks so much for watching today, and appreciate all the support again and a lot of the comments, and feel like I've been a little bit behind on getting back to some of the comments on YouTube, but really appreciating just the engagement. And add me on Instagram and send me a message on Instagram if you want to talk about comics too. Yeah, always willing to chat. But thanks for watching today, and I'll see you on the next one.